Hi everyone, welcome back. Welcome to part number 2. Well, we left off working on this. I was putting some of that light water in there, and it's been a couple of days because of the storms and stuff again. We have had a tremendous amount of storms here in the panhandle of Nebraska this year so far, and just unreal. And today, it's 56 degrees outside. So what's going on with Mother Nature? We have no idea. This is not July. But anyway, so what I had here was my original drawing, and you can see there's a dock and stuff that I want to put in. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to put all of those houses that we put up there on that other side back there yet. I know I'm going to probably eliminate this big fishing launch here. I might put a smaller sailboat in here and a smaller little power boat right there, maybe a little sailboat. You know, it's like I said at the very beginning, we get too much stuff going on, it kind of detracts from the painting. I have a nice visual journey here. And, you know, I want to kind of simplify it here, maybe a softer boat or something to kind of stop your journey. And that's all the painting really needs. You don't need to get so much going on that it detracts. But that's your choice, okay? All right, so since my drawing is pretty much gone here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fake it with my straight edge that I have here that I showed you for doing those masts and stuff. It works really, really well. We'll look over here. We can see the horizontal, the horizontal part. Well, it's going to be a horizontal dock through here. And then right back here, this particular angle. And it's just, the dock itself is going to come right above here. So I just want to be close. That's all I want to do. So I'm going to take here a little bit of burnt sienna. Oh, and I also added out on my palette some ultramarine blue that will help me with the water. So I have phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. So I just want to take out, and I want to make a lighter, it's kind of a tannish green kind of color. So we'll start it in, and then we'll adjust some of the colors here and break up the color with broken color a little bit later on. So I won't be completely precise with it. This is my number 6 Fusion Flat, and I'm going to use this same thing that I have here that you've seen me use before, and I'll line it up kind of where that other one is going to go, right about in there. Okay, right about, and it's going to start here. Let's get this angle just right here. It's going to start somewhere right out in here, and I'll start out with the line. When I draw like this, I start out the line kind of narrow, and I'll add to it when I get going. You know, I can add some more stuff to it. So that's not too bad. It's probably a little bit too much. So let's come back up a little bit higher, a little bit less of an angle. So, I have it tracking right along with the boat, probably a little bit too much there. So we'll take some of that out. That'll look pretty good right there. So we'll set that in as the one part of it right there. And, working, with tools like this is just so great. It works just so well. Here, let's put this one in right about in here, and we'll adjust our shoreline and everything else. So that'll be the main line of the dock. I know it's a little hard to see there. Let's put a darker touch here up above it, here, right up here. And we'll help to see where that shadow's going to go. Let's add a little burnt sienna and blue so that gets a bit darker here. This works so well. I use these, and I like this broken line color there. That's pretty good right there. I know that's hard to see, but it does work pretty well. And we'll push this underside lip right in through there of that dock here, right in there. And sometimes, you adjust your colors a little bit, like here, painting it just a touch dark, and then we'll adjust it a little bit more later on, so here, let's just widen, and, and I'll stutter stroke sometimes like this, roll my brush and use different angles here, so I'll get different looks to the side of that dock as I start to apply this. and I'll do it multiple times, and we can sneak up and eliminate some of that shadow here. Just tap that along. That's pretty good there. And then we'll have the bigger pilings here that you can go ahead and put on. And this is how I'm going to put them on. And we don't need to watch me do all of these, but this is how I'm going to do it. And it sits out in front of this, so, and it goes up quite high, right up to about there. Oops, right up to about there. And again, I'll change colors a bit, and sometimes I'll do this where I use the ferrule of this just to slide my brush here as I go through and widen and add little lines and interest and stuff like that to it there. And we'll come over here. There'll be another one over there. Right on the corner, there's going to be a group of three, 2 or 3. You don't, when you're painting, yes, you want to capture the impression of it, the interest of it. I don't always, want to paint it exactly perfect in an exact copy of it. So, and this has got to go here right on the top here, just like that. So, right up in front. So, I'll continue on like that, and then what we'll do is we'll come back, and I'm just going to finish up some of that, put some of those pilings on just like that. Then we'll come back and I'll show you some of the next step of detailing them. See you in a minute. Okay, everyone, welcome back. I got those in. I put a little lighter tan here, which will be just for the area of the, the top part of the decking. Now, we need to add some broken color, some other colors to that. So I'm going to take just some white, tap it in through a few of those colors. And the angles here are kind of important. So this is the crossing. You're going to simulate the crossing planks here. So I want to pull them at like a 45-degree angle, just a few streaks here, so you get the impression here. Reload your brush, and boy, this fusion flat just works perfect here. And you're just emulating the look of some planks going across there. You're not trying to copy them exactly, like all things here. We're just going to emulate some of the movement of that color. And sometimes sometimes I do that, if I can get the right angle with the flat of my brush, as flat as possible. And I know it's kind of small, but see, the flat, just like I showed you on that water, gives more of a granulated look, and it gives a really nice look to building some of those planks. So what you try to always do is learn different ways and angles of your brush, because that really helps. Now these go right across here just like this, and don't be afraid to come into and hit your pilings there, because you can always come back and and clean up those pilings. Let's get a little bit different color. Let's look at the tops of those pilings. Kind of a bluish kind of gray. So a burnt sienna blue, even a little ultramarine blue here, just to blue up some of that color. See, just like, let's put a little ultramarine blue in there. Ultramarine blue is a real nice blue, and it's not as powerful as the phthalo, so it's easy to work with like burnt sienna. And I'll come in here, and let's just pick out some of these pilings, and I'm just going to pull down. I pulled some of that burnt sienna blue dark without any white from the bottom up. Now I'll just take some of this other. Now this one, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, here. I have that one there. So this one is going to go back up in front of this dock right there. So we'll go ahead and put that. And it depends on how much time you want to put into the painting, but I want this area to be quite nice. So I'm going to work these areas and this shoreline quite a bit like this. Just, adding small touches of color right in here. And see, I love the drag, because that just gives you a different look to it. And I want to pull the vertical, and you can see that in those pilings. It's got a quite a long vertical. Now here's a nice light stroke there, see? And then I'll just knock that down just a bit. And if I get too much, I just, go over it. Let's put just a touch of that light right here on the light side edge right here. That might be too much. And if you think, well, it's kind of nice looking actually, but if it is just a touch too much, so maybe I just tap into it. Don't, see, you do this kind of stuff to it. And that adds, takes it off. But see, it adds a little bit more movement to it, a nice natural movement to the wood. And it works really, really well. And so I'm going to do a few of those kinds of marks in here like this on these pilings as I go to paint them. And see, that just adds a little bit more detail work. And how much you do, that's all up to you. But I do like to do this, especially around my center of interest. Now, that's a little burnt sienna, a little too much burnt sienna, I think. But see, I don't take that off. What I'll do is I'll grab a little more blue and the lighter color and I'll paint into that. And so I always look at what I got. I never stop, even if it's the wrong color. I never completely stop. I go ahead and pull through and then I go ahead and adjust it. And it's those little changes that make it quite nice. To change it all up. It makes it quite nice. So let's just go through and add that, little bits of detail here, and then we'll add a bit of this more down through there, a little bit of that lighter gray right in there, right through that, touch into that, and we have some, some of that nice dark. So just take some of your burnt sienna, a little bit of that blue. Sometimes I'll put a little green into that. And we'll pull up. This is the tide line, the dark parts on the pilings here. It's more of the tide line, the rise and fall of the tide. The pilings here get quite dark, and sometimes you'll get, the barnacles and stuff like that on them and stuff. I lived on the ocean for 30 years and saw a lot of pilings in my time in our fishing town. So, yeah, it's bringing back some good memories. Now, then we'll go down also. And so you may want to, I'll start the darker bit of this. And once I start to divide up some of this area, then my eye is going to start focusing down more and more into detail. So what I'm going to do is, I know this is going to go down. Okay, here to here, so right about in here, right about down in here, I know I'm going to get the dark reflection of that piling here. And so I thin my colors just a little bit so I can get some nice reflections here. And then I'll paint a mirror image here. I'll start out with the dark here, and then I'll paint a mirror image of what these pilings are showing. Now this one, believe it or not, it will go down a little bit farther, right down here, and they'll come in like 3 of them right in there, because the 3 of them are right together, right in there, and it's just fun. Now there's some crosses in here as well, crossing members here, and so you'll have to, like this one crosses here, so you'll have to emulate that crossing there, and we'll put a little bit of phthalo. If I want that to go nice and dark, I'll just put some phthalo with it. And remember, we're not being precise, we're just grabbing the impression of it, so that works. Now right up above here, right up above the boat, right up here, we'll have these. They just poke out a little bit, just a little bit there. So let's just put a bit of that in there. And then I'll add the lights to those as well. So you try to capture as much as possible. So now what I'll do, so you can see that dragging down, and you get some of that blue and stuff through there. So I want to add some of that light, but I don't want this, as I'm painting these reflections, I don't want these reflections really thick. So I'll thin it out with a little extender, light pressure on the brush, And I'll just do that. Let's pull this right down. And what I'll do is once I get some of this in, I got to put that water line in as well. There'll be just a little bit of it right here, and I use this block just for an idea of the guide. A little bit lighter up here on the top. This has got to go lighter up here on this top for it to be a nice mirror of it. Doesn't have to be a perfect mirror. And remember, like I did with the other one, you can push out and blur this just a bit. You know, just push your finger through, blur some of that just a bit. And that gives that look of water through there, see? Water will distort the waves and wind and stuff distorts a bit. So if I leave a nice light right up there, I'll touch it right back down in here a bit and maybe blur it over just a bit there. And then one of the things that is going to make this very realistic and in everything you do, and I didn't do this for years, guys, and now I know and I look for it in Westerns, and I learned it in Westerns, believe it or not, is all of your cast shadows. And I never even, actually added that all the time. But, I always look for where my cast shadows are. So I'm going to take a little thin Phthalo Blue and burnt sienna here. And right out through here, it's going to be right in here, right along the edge of that bottom of that boat here. I'm just going to, and it's going to go right through here. And we'll just pull that through. This is the cast shadow of the light and the dock, from the dock here. So we'll widen it out quite wide here. Okay, so you'll see that cast shadow in the water from the dock, and you can blur that out. Pull it, blur that up and down a bit. Here, soft like that, blur that through to get that into the water. There should be, like right here on the dock where it comes down and contacts there, we'll just add a little bit more dark right in here. So you start analyzing what is it that you're seeing, and so these right here, I could go down. I'm looking at that in reference. These can come down maybe a little bit more and a little further. Really easy to do. So these, I could go a little longer right in here. And if I pull these things multiple times like this and get some of this on, it looks so great. And I'm just a little bit off, in my drawing here of it, is I got this one close to here in the sample. There's a little more space right between the boat and some of that, but it's not gonna, by the time it's all done, mine's correct, right? Because they're only looking at the thing. So I don't worry about some of that small stuff. But to help some of these, what we're going to do to help some of these pilings and stuff sit into the water, what we'll do is we'll get some of our light color here. And I used ultramarine blue and a bit of the phthalo blue here. But the ultramarine blue is a blue violet. And I put a lot of violet, if you remember, back into that sky. So I want to make sure I capture some of that here. But I'm going to take some of this and I'm going to look through here where some of these lights kind of go through, where some of these lights from the sun and stuff are hitting through in that water right there in between. And I'll very carefully now, you saw me in before we stopped at the end of that last video, kind of touching through like this. And I want to break up. That's a little bit white, not enough blue, so I'll add a bit more blue into that. So I want to break up, that's better color. Some of that right in through there, that cast shadow and stuff. And I start looking through what it is that I see into the painting. So there's going to be some of this light right down through here. And A lot of times when I start to deal with the smaller area, this is where I love my 1 inch, and I just pull that down to blur that in. You can also, like I've showed you before in other videos, put on a coat of extender and start to work some of that. But it's kind of nice, and if you get some of that color, kind of nice to drag some of it through like this, in some of those other areas. Blur those out just a bit, put some of those other lights that we have here and some of this, so that color just doesn't go in one area. You see it go up into a few other areas here. So there you see that. There is a beautiful, and it's hard to see on the photo, I can see it very clearly right up there on it, reflected light color onto the ship. So see what happened, my eye starts to focus down to start seeing little changes, and right on this little boat right here, there's a light blue reflected light hitting back up against the edge here from where that light is coming back through here on the edge of that boat, which is going to help pull it off. And it's a little softer than that, but there, just drag some of that through right in there. Okay, and I can see everything in here. I'm going to need to lighten up my dock, and I'll need to, I have to decide if I'm going to, because I didn't give myself very much room here by coming, that dock should have really come over right about to here. And so if I want to put that ladder in, and that'll be a decision. I don't think so. I'm off just a little bit, so those of you that are painting it may want to take a note of that you might want to move that over a bit. But I'm going to add a little more light to some of this, a few more details to some of this, lighten up the dock a bit. I'll add some darks right up along the line here, along the shoreline, and work this area here. I'm going to be using the same techniques. I'll show a few clips along the way so we don't take up too much time, okay, on this video, because I want to get in here and work on this. So it's going to be focusing down my eye, working with a small brush, and just put it in some of those color details that I'm going to be seeing right along there, okay? And I'll take a few clips along the way, and let's get at it. Hi everyone, welcome back. Okay, I've been working on some of that stuff. I decided to put a little house back here, not as much detail. You just take some of your sky colors and stuff here, mix it down into this. I got to redo the skyline right in here, but keep everything very simplistic so it does push it back. I added a few little rocks here because I saw those, and I want to add some ripples and stuff now to the water. While this water, I put this water on with a little bit of extender. It's still wet, so I want to add some ripples and stuff to it. I'm just going to take a like my number 10 Fusion Flat here, and I'm just going to kind of break up here. And this is, I have a more of a greenish, a Phthalo Blue color right in here. I'm using a little bit of that ultramarine blue, but it's a little too violet for me. So let me go back up over here to my phthalo that I had earlier and see if I can that's a little better. And what I want to do is just break it like this. These are just wind waves onto the surface, and it just, it's actually just shimmers and stuff. So I don't want to, I just want to break up here. I don't want to, add too much to it. You just want to break up the solidness of it with indistinct lines like this, movements. And it'll look a little strange for just a bit, but as you get them in, and you can always soften any of that, just pull through a couple times, maybe pull down just a bit, and you start to add all of this nice movement to it. So I'm going to want to add some of this. Some people put it in a little bit wavier, a little bigger as you come forward, because they do get that way, because they're coming, these shines and shimmers are coming at you, and so you do have that perspective of it going through just like that. So, and I'll add that and see with that wet background I love it when the acrylics get a little sticky, because then you can do stuff like this really easy. And use different parts of your brush, and you can come back with the light and the dark. You don't have to just do the light like this. You can come back, and I'll show you in a second. You can come back and add some of this. Add smaller, littler back here, okay? But larger as you come forward up here. Get a little larger, okay? And that'll help you with your perspective through here. And you see, it just gives little shimmers to the water here. And we'll blur it out a bit, tap through some, blur it out, okay? And so you get some of that shimmers. Then you can do it in reverse. Let's just take a little bit of the phthalo here, a little darker. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, here's a little phthalo in here, see? A little bit of phthalo, a little different color than what I had here before. And see again that, and I can break up some of those large areas there and add a little more movement, a little bit more color here to the water. And change your brush too. If you find yourself just always making the same marks, I like to take my brush and turn it and use it on different ends and stuff like that. But if you find yourself making a lot of the same marks, change your brush. And a brush that would work really, really well with these is also a filbert, because it has more of a round edge. And so you can get a lot of interest there with that as well. So we'll just add that. See, it just gives this movement through it. So, and you can, even while it's still a little wet here, you can come through and add some more of your reflections and stuff like that moving through. But these are just little shimmers in the water here. There we go, like that. So you get that nice look. And sometimes in a real detailed painting, some of the ships that you see me do, I'll do that 2 or 3 times. I don't think I'll do it here with that, but I could have a few darker, maybe even a little bit more violet into it. A few darker, especially right up in here. Some of these, because the darkness brings it forward. And so just a few of them here. little bits of movements, and you get that different colors, you know, and you can use some of the darkness from your back. So, and that looks great as well. So take a little bit of your greens and burnt umbers and blues here, and add some of those colors into the water here as well, because they're just shimmers and reflections and stuff. So, you know, you can get some of that, and that just looks great in there. See, it just starts this movement of the water, and we want to have that. And, you know, we want some of this variation here, back here like this, here, right up along this edge here. And there goes, you can hear that, that's my phone. So it's, I'll have to go answer that because my wife is out with the grandkids today. So I'll have to go take a break and answer that in just a second. So, well, but this is wet. So we'll just blur across and pull down just a bit. See, and blur across. And you can create all of those really neat kind of reflections there. You can take some of this light coloring that you did here onto the rocks and just add, you don't need to redo the rocks, just add some of that idea of that light coloring there. And sometimes I'll add that in, and then I'll make sure just by touching some of that color into the rock, you know, and it's just like when you put some of this blue into here, you can touch it up into your sky. Then you make sure you're always reflecting that sky and stuff like that, you know, precisely. That's very important. So I'm going to go answer that phone. I'll be right back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Yes, that was my wife. So anyway, I'm just adding some trees right here. I decided, oh, I'll add a little more visual interest to break up this large plane. And I want to keep the edges, though, and the lightness of them a little softer, and maybe add just a few more like little bushes, marks, just little simple marks through here. And visually just breaks up the large planes of the surface here. Then we'll go in, so we'll just add a few little bits here. And again, see, it just breaks it up. Maybe some right up against the edge of our house, right up here. Okay, so it just keeps that right in there, just breaks up some of that. Now you can increase the angle back here if you want, just by pulling that through, but I think that looks pretty good, breaks it up pretty good. Maybe a couple over here, and just like little bushes and stuff. And then we're going to put that dock in. Over here, there's another dock right here by the rocks, and again, I'll use my board. Let's go back in and grab some light yellows and stuff that we have, and we'll draw it, and we'll add it here, and then we'll refine it just a bit. Here, let's see, let's give some room between that and the rocks right in here. So I'll just use the edge. This is going to be my big flat, and so I can use anything here, and I'll just pull that line down there. And let's actually reduce that angle a little bit. People will probably fall off at that angle, and I'll come right down into there. And then I'll widen the dock here. Let's actually darken it just a touch here, right up along here, and it's a slight angle actually to the ground right in here, but let's just drop in a line so you can see this thing. It's kind of a real neat thing, rather than doing a drawing with a pencil sometimes, just to add those things in just like this, and then we'll manipulate them, the colors and stuff here in just a bit with a bit more. Now I'm going to go to a smaller. It has a lighter little rail, and so I can see where it is. I'll go up to the top this time so I can see right where that is, and I'll put the light rail right down there on it. And then we have some posts. Now, docks float with the tides and stuff, so their angle and stuff like that will change, but we'll just be simple here. Let's not get too complicated. maybe a little shadow line underneath it. So maybe just like I do with a lot of figures that you see, I'll just do a simple light and dark, you know, painting of it, light and shadow, and you know, maybe a few little lines, and then I just use my finger to blur the lines sometimes. I like that. Almost has a little bluish cast to it in some of that. So let's just drop in a little bit of that and model the color a bit to break it up. Very simplistic because it's nowhere near our center of interest there. So we just want to be very simplistic. Now let's take a blue and umber here, and we'll create the side of this dock here. Boom. Just the side right there. We'll blur that down to the water, or actually it gets a darker line here. Let's put in the side of it there, and it'll get a darker line, so a little more blue, phthalo blue and umber, excuse me, sienna, burnt sienna. And I think I said umber before too, maybe. Whoops, it's burnt sienna and blue. I don't even have umber on my palette. So a little dark line right along that, and you can, you know, technically there'll be a reflection there on that, and we could have that if we want. Let's just drop a single little line right down in there, you know. So, and it's always good, no matter what, whether you see it or not, or, you know, you can always put in a little bit of a line or a little bit of a color for a reflection. That just increases your realism. Now, I don't really, in the sample photo, see a reflection because there's a big boat right there in front of it. But we'll just add some of it right now anyway. And then we'll, you know, maybe we'll put that, I think maybe we should maybe put that boat in there because that's kind of neat. So let's just, and this is all it's down to, is lots of little details like this. I'm going to take my small brush here, and let's just kind of map out where this boat will be right here, right next to the dock. But this little synthetic works really well for drawing because it is much sharper in reaction than the fusion filberts and fusion flats. It's a little bit more springy, so it responds to the drawing or movement of your hand a little quicker, so you can get a bit more detail in it. Here, let's add just a touch of that. Whoops, I don't want to set my hand too much in there. That's all wet. So, yep, there's my water. You gotta love painting. So we'll add a little bit of the reflection there of that boat into the water there. And it has a red hole underneath there, so let's just add some of that. And boom, a little end to it, and just a little bit of red there. Maybe a little brighter here, right here. And we're going to get very simplistic with some of this now too as well. So there's a nice light blue tarp on it. Your choice whether you want to put it in there. I'm going to use a bit of both of my blues, and we'll just grab a bit of it here. And again, very simplistic for what we're doing. Maybe a little bit of that blue up by the bow, and a touch darker here along the gunwale here. Maybe pull down just a bit. And I like broken lines and stuff like that. They give so much interest to it. Let's take a darker color here, and we'll put in those ever so important pilings here. So we'll just drop that in. It's a little dark, and but we'll put a highlight on it and that'll help. We'll just, and it could go up, believe it or not, a little higher, even though we have a lot of distance there. Let's go put the other one right over here by the edge. About the same height here. And as you can see, this is going to put in more detail. So right now, you know, when I took that break and stuff, I looked at it to see just how much detail am I going to want to be adding to this painting. And I thought, well, we could support a little bit more. That's why I'm doing this in here right now. And if I don't like it, I will take it right back off, because I can do that. So I know, but this is up to you. So this is getting a lot. This is putting in a lot here, and it's up to you whether or not you want to put that in. Let's so we have that, and you know, we've got to have the top part, because that's just the downward part there. So we've got to have that crossing of that dock right up here. That it's almost like the edge of a pier here. So we got to put that in, and some pilings. And again, I'm going to get really simplistic with some of this, and just, you know, not worry too much about being precise, because, you know, part of this is my main part of my painting is done, which is that boat there. So, you know, the rest of this is just going to be just for interest here. So that's pulling across, and then we got to go back up this side a little bit here. So we'll push that in, and some pilings here. Just indicate them, and there, and then we can put those railings in as well. So you can see it's just a lot of little work, not hard work, just a lot of little work. And if you want to, you know, that's how much you want to do is up to you, you know. But I'm going to do some here, because it's kind of neat. And, you know, using this little trick of this little guy here, of this edge, just makes it go kind of quick here, you know, of the edge. Let's put that end in here, and then we'll angle this here, push that in, so you can, you know, it's quite a bit away, so it doesn't need to be perfect, but we do want to have some of that interest, some of this little bit of vertical lines there. It just gives that nice, you know, impressionistic look. Let's put a touch of light here and there on some of these pilings. My choice. Here. There we go, just real quick. This is the most important area, right? And let's take that dark, and we're going to go up past that house. This is pretty close to that. We don't want to just drop it right there into the house. Let's go right up, right about there. That skipped too much for me. It shows my paint was just a little bit too dry. So I'm going to add just a touch more moisture. I used extender. You could use water. And just add that mast in there. And I think that's going to be a little too high, so I'll just pull some of that back down. Let's add the light to it. So what I'll do is I set it on this side so I can clearly see it, see my light. And I'll just pull the light down, just like that. So I got a nice little light. You can take even more light, and this is what makes it really nice, is you just use it and use your thing as a rest, and just tap along little shines and shimmers around that mask there for a while. And that works. And maybe, since this is a cool side right in here, let's just add a little more light right to the edge of the boat right there. It just pops it up a bit more. We'll put some of the rigging and stuff on there as well. And we have the chimney and stuff, which I didn't do, which I just now saw on that little house. So I'll just quickly, even with some of this little red, just quickly indicate a couple of them here. Boom. Just as you get further back, I like to do things really quick. And there's a brighter little orange one you can see quite nice in that photo because it's being hit by the light. So I'm just going to mix up a little light. And then you also have this guy sometimes, and it's very, very true. When you're looking at a photo, sometimes something is unbelievable. You know, you look at it in the photo and you go, wow, how did that get there? And if you go ahead and copy that or emulate it, you know, you might cause somebody to think, well, they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? So, you know, sometimes you have to, like this little chimney over here is sunstruck, and it is pretty bright. And so I'm going to tone it down, not do that much, because I think that it's too bright to be believable. I mean, even though you do see it in the photo. Okay, so, and I said I wanted to take some of that light and maybe a bit of this nice creamy color that we used earlier there. Oh, a fly died in my extender. That's pretty funny. Fly there likes the extender. So I'm going to push a little bit of that back here, and we'll use that to kind of clean up. Let's go a little bit lighter and push a bit more yellow into that. And you know, these are kind of things you can do for quite a while to kind of put other colors and interest and stuff like that into your composition. I do like that kind of yellowish back there into that. Adds a bit of difference. It's a lot easier to do if you have a fly in your extender. There we go. That's too straight right there, so I'll just push up into it and take that off there. It gets that, you know, gets that nice creamy kind of color there, and let's just intensify it over here a bit. You can make this a really beautiful, because this is actually in the sun, in the evening here, or actually in the morning or evening, it's hard to tell. And so you can increase that just by picking one side and putting more yellow into the scene as well. Okay, so we've got that one. We have to put the details and stuff, but you see kind of how that's all going to go. And I'll have another couple boats. Then the question is, do I want to put them all in here, or do I want to let some of it go here? I do want this little blue and red, white, and blue one. I like that one. So little red, white, and blue one right here, and a little bit darker of a blue. So it'll go, let's put that in right over here. So it'll go down and then back up here, right about in here like that. And it's got to go back more. I don't have it going back quite as far. So, and it's about, and so what I usually do, and the things that I do is I hold this up and I look at that. Okay, it's right there and it's about there. So the width of it is about half of that. So this one, so the width of that's got to be a little bit wider. So I use that, a lot of artists will use their long handle brushes to help decide in the size of things as they work it here. So, and it does work. Let's put just the idea here of the, and so I'm going to draw this very simplistically here as I start this, and I'll probably make it a little bit bigger because it feels a little small right now, but let's just start some of the elements and see where we are, and then we can adjust it. I like to do that. And so I usually, when I'm just kind of freehand sketching something in, I'll start it a little smaller and then slowly increase its size until I feel it's in a good proportion with the rest of the painting. And so, and not always following what is in the drawing. You know, I use the drawing, I use the photo for ideas. I don't always copy it. So let's get that nice dark here. Let's put in the bow here, just like that. And let's put in the bottom side of it here. And then it's going to go right up to that bow here. There we go. And some more dark. The darks are so important in a painting. They give you that interest there. There we go. And you know, one of the things I always notice, it comes all the way from still life painting and stuff. And this is not a joke, but it looks like it's floating. Yes, it's floating on the water, but floating in the air. And what usually brings that down, well, it always does, brings it down, is the contact shadow or the cast shadow. Here it'll be the reflection of this boat down into the water. And I'm going to tone this blue down just a bit. And this is what will set it into the water here. And I'm going to be a bit blurry back and forth with that as I do that. And set this in here like that. You can see it starts to set it down into the water. And so I'll work that back up to here. Put in that back side here like that. That'll go good. And see, I'll restate some of this stuff several times as I'm doing this. So that light line, that's going to go right there. But I like this one because it kind of closes off the composition on this side. And you know, it's like what I say in a lot of the landscapes. If we put an element on the right and the left, it increases the depth. And this little boat will be kind of important right here because it'll close off the painting here on this side, and it will increase the depth, and it'll keep the viewer back up in here. Now, in the actual photo, he's going to be over here, but I'm changing it a little bit because I can, and I want to. So let's put a bit of shadow and stuff over here. Grab some of the other colors that you use in your composition here as you start to figure some of this shape and stuff like that out. Always grab some of those other colors. Let's fix this. This comes back down this way. And see, I used that background and stuff here to, you know, the water and stuff here to reshape and to help shape up the boat as I'm putting it in. This is a great little way. And I do this a lot with florals as well. This is how I do it a lot with my flowers. As I build here, those shapes. Let's put that little bit of light right here. That says this side of the boat. There we go. And this little bit of light over here that pulls that image, that pulls that side right there. And we want this to be very, very lost. Well, I'm a little bit high right back up over here, so I'll drop that back down as I'll drop that stern back down. So, you know, when you're drawing and you're putting it on here, you put the element, and then you slowly refine the element, and I'll paint back out until I, you know, start to get the shapes and stuff that I want here. And I'll use all of my tools here to put that little boat in. Rather than sometimes rather than put it in a pattern, you know, and sometimes it takes a little longer like I'm doing here, and sometimes it goes very, very quickly here. So, and I'll put in a few little lights, little shimmers right up in here like that. And a little bit of that light blue here onto this side. Here. I love to just play those tones back and forth several times because that's what gives me the interest of the little boat. Now let's redefine, because that white line is very important, and so is that red hole. So let's just redefine those right there, and we'll put that red in there again. So that's how I go about, you know, a lot of times putting in the sketch of something as I do that. Now, what's really going to start to make this look like a little sailboat is we start to put in this guy here. So let's get that. It's right up front because we got to get that, and it's going to go up pretty high here. And we'll drop in that main mast. You could see how easy it is with that tool. Very easy. And I'm going to take a little bit of burnt sienna and blue and just add a touch of shadow to that. It's kind of important. It kind of really closes off the viewer from going further off that way over there. And then I'll go through and I'll straighten up a little bit more of my boat here. A little bit more. Some nice warm color. A little bit of those browns and stuff there. And yeah, and I could go up with that mask just a touch higher here. It is in the photo. It's quite a high one, but here we go, just a little bit more. But see, I like this kind of modeling with that color, especially when it's on the outside. And you won't see it that clear on the photo. I mean, you won't see it that blurry on the photo. You see it really clear, but I don't want to do that because I'm out of my center of interest. So I want to paint everything here to this side a little bit more impressionistic here. Like that, and not be super perfect. And the question is, do I put that other little boat in there? That's going to be the question. Or is this enough for the painting? You know, it's a choice that I have to make here, whether or not I want that other little launch. And you know, it's I really kind of like the simplicity of even one boat there, as opposed to getting too much, you know. But then I start to look at the details now. What do? We look at the details, and I'll start putting smaller little touches where I see the light hitting on some of this stuff, where I see the light here, and you know, it's more clear on the side of that boat, but do I want to do it? Because it really puts a lot of interest over there. So we'll just give it a little bit there as that goes in there. And maybe just a touch of this light here. Just a touch. Now. So we have that in there, and that works there. So we've got the impression of this, and then some of that right there on that dock dried down a little bit. And so when I go back to reset, I will not always use the edge of this thing. Sometimes I'll just freehand it to just like this, just to break it up a bit, okay? And you get that fracturing really nice, and just make some very simplistic color movements here. There we go. Maybe put you can look, always look for, light sources and shines and stuff. And so there would be one like right in there. It hits that edge there. Pretty nice. In the photo, it's just a bit on the top, and then there's more yellow and stuff reflected almost like down up here into the front. So you get this side angle of it a bit. And so you can put that in, and then make sure you add it into the reflection there into the water as well. Here, whatever you do, reflect down into the water. That is very important. Since I lightened this up, let's just reflect a little bit more into the water there. And now we'll decide, or what I'm going to do now is, I have a little bit more of the work that I want to do in through here, but I do want to straighten up a couple of things. This got a little wonky right here, so let's just straighten up that railing right there just a bit. And I find that, when you're painting here, when you're doing these kinds of work, if you see something a little wonky or a little wavy, you really should take care of that. It should only be wavy in the water, but you really do want to take care of some of those lines and take care of your drawing. Take care of you make sure you get those, those perspectives correct in that. Let's just add a touch of that dark, because that'll work with this other boat here, and that's pretty good. Okay, now, and it's just real simplistic there. That's what I want, keeping everything simplistic. I want it to be about this. So there's another power boat and a bunch of other stuff in here, and you can do that. There's a bigger boat right back over here that you can do. I don't think I will, just because it'll be too much for me in this painting. I want it to be about the sailboat, and I want the viewer to descend over here. I want a little bit of interest over here, like bushes and beach and stuff like that, but I don't want too much. Like, I may just take this yellows here, and I love the yellows, and I love a little bit of violet in the yellows when I'm going to make sand. And you'll see that in a lot of my seascapes. So I'll take some of this, and I'll angle down just a bit here to create the feeling of a beach right there, right along that there. And of course, you should reflect a little bit of it there into the water. A little bit of that color goes down into the water. Maybe a slightly darker cut edge along the water there. And it could be a little bit wavy there, just a bit. But we'll take a bit more dark. And so, look for elements, when you're emulating off of a photo, and the photo's too busy. This one's a little too busy for me, but I love the photo. I'll take elements off of it. And so I like some of this lost area out through there. I like that. There's a lot more going on here in this area than there is here. That's very important for depth, so don't get too much brush movement over here. Let it stay softer, because you want it to fade away over there, okay? That's very important. There is a little buoy right here, and this would make a nice little thing here. Little buoy, or little float that this one is tied up to, so let's just put the idea of that in there. A little bit of burnt sienna in that. Some of these little things like this really make it nice, and just blur the edges of that just a touch. Here, we'll just tap that through. Don't spend too much time making this, Dave. It's more, it's very, very impressionistic. That's what we want. I could increase the red up here, right up here like that. Let's just drop that, maybe a bit of that into the water there as well. Let that just be blurry out through here. Let that all be blurry. It's just impressionistic, but we can take a little bit of light right from the bow here, just a tiny little line right down to the buoy there. Barely see that, huh? Yeah, you can get real fine lines, and I like to do those fine lines with this. Now, let's go rig some of the boats here. I'll show it to you, and then I'll go finish them all up here. But first we got to put in some of our angles here up at the top of this rigging. Right up above this, just a bit, will come out a bit like that. And let's put it up at a slight V here. See if that's going to be the right angle. And that will be fine. It could go out a little bit more. And if I have to go out a little bit more, I'll change my color up a bit. I like to do that. You know, especially if I'm working on the center of interest of something, I like to do change off. Let's just give that a little bit of the structure there of that line. And, you know, it's a little thick, so I can take it down or I can blur it. And a lot of times I like to just blur through it. That's a real, and it just takes the importance of it away a bit. This down here, let's just put a little bit right up here. Just an idea of it. Doesn't need to be perfect. This one has one that's right here. And this one should have one right up here to help hold those lines. Okay. And maybe a little bit of light here on it. Just, I can use my thing, or I just tap along it just a bit here. Real quick here. This keeps that impressionism with it that I do like if I don't get too much into it. Here, let's get just a little bit of line interest here. Okay. Now, the all-important one here, it's going to go from there to there. I want to be able to see it, so I'm going to go on this side. And I'm just going to use the little chisel edge with the dark color. And I let it skip and break just a bit, okay? And I'll redress the brush. And we're going to go right down from there to the side of the boat here. And some of it's going to not show up, and that is okay. You don't have to see the whole thing. You got to see the impression of it, right? There you go. Just like that. So, and that's how I'm going to do all of these little things here. It's going to take me a while. I'm going to put them on all of this, and then I'll come back with some of them and put on some highlights. Then we'll come back. We'll take a look at our final water and how much more we want to do to this, okay? All right, I'll see you in just a minute. Hi everyone, welcome back. Well, I put a lot of rigging on all of that, and mostly light lines, a few dark lines, and then I took one here and just kind of expanded it out like there was a lot of lines together, kind of like what you see in the photo. Now, I've got this movement and stuff in here, but I think I want to lighten up the water a little bit more, like you see right back in through here of the sky, reflecting that sky back. I need that color right in there. So, and now it's just, I want to work on this water. I'm going to add some extender here. I removed the fly, so I'll add some extender here. And I will, and a good way to do this as you're working this is what, you know, it's kind of a nice aqua color. This is actually clouds. And so if I want to keep the clouds and work those clouds and maybe put some of that look back in here, that is a good thing. Or I can go more violet. But whatever you do, what you do to one, you can do the other. Now, normally, you know, here I'll look at this and I'll see that might be kind of nice to carry the light of that boat, but it's just a touch light. So I'll drop it down just a bit, and we put some of that movement in here. So I don't want to, I just want to lighten some stuff up. I might have to redo some of that movement, but I want to just tap this around and see if I can lighten up and not have to redo too much of that movement. But if I need to, I do. So, but I'll push this around a bit. Here, get some of that light in there. Put some of that nice light. Now, go maybe a little bit lighter. Step off to the side slightly so you can see a little bit lighter, just a little bit, maybe a value or so. And let's push some of that right up here into the sky as well. And, you know, I do just kind of paint around things and movement. Now, see, I sometimes will add colors like that. Just leave it in there because that just adds movement to the sky. I used to always think, oh, I got to get this all blended out. And no, I don't. I don't anymore. I let that movement just kind of sit in there. And I'll use my paper towel and I'll pull down a bit. Sometimes I get that edge. I'll take some of the color out of my water, my brush with water, and I'll just use water to pull it down just a bit, misting those together, misting that up into that up there. So then see what happens is I'm pulling one right down into the other. Let's get a bit more of our extender and our Phthalo Blue here, and we'll push a bit more right down into here and kind of follow some of that, tap some of that back up in here. That helps us with that water's movement back up in there again. Maybe some of that through here. And it's just how much time you're going to spend now on this, emulating this water's movement. So it gets a little bit darker yet, coming forward, and then into more of the violets, a little bit of that green like we put earlier here. And I'm just kind of lightly skipping this. And see, I don't want to lose everything I did before. It's just enhancing it by not putting too much of that in there. Let's just put a mark or two, maybe every once in a while, a little deeper color through here, just like this. Just dance it through, and it just breaks up and gets some of that shimmery movement into the water that we want to have there as well. Here, move slightly at an angle, but not too much of an angle. When you do this, not too much of an angle, you make big, huge waves, and we don't want big, huge waves there. Okay, let's take some of that right down in here, so it comes across maybe a bit of that light. Okay, right up into some of this, that cooler shadow blue right in there, but you can pick up some of this through some of this shimmer, see, right on through. And all of that, and you know, I used to think, oh, that's got to all be smooth, but it just looks great if it's not, you know. And maybe take a little bit of this color and add just a touch of it into some of this here. Get some of that other sky color and stuff in there, into that water. That looks pretty good. Maybe even a little bit lighter right up onto these edges and stuff, little shimmers. You can add a few of those around like this, you know, just a bit of those. And of course, you know, you can come back and restate some of these. All depends on how much work you want to do. Like I said, in a big painting, I will do this several times. And you know, and each time I do this, I change the tone just a little bit, so I'm constantly adding to it. But it's a matter of how much time, how much detail you want to put into a painting. On a big painting, I do this. I might do this for several hours. On a small painting like this, no, we'll just emulate it and move on through the painting. Here, let's just come with some of this medium value here. And this, it helps carry some of those colors through, but you can do that little wiggle in it, you know, that it gets every once in a while. That's nice here. You know, that's up to you. Let's take a wet brush with just some extender in it and just blur that out a bit. Here. There we go. Just like that. So you get a bit more of that water movement and stuff. And if you want to, add anything, the clarity and stuff like that here to your shimmers, to the reflections, that reflection could go a little bit lighter right up against that edge there. That could go a little bit more, but it's just a slow refinement like that. I do like that little boat sitting over there. I do need to, so I reflected a little bit of the boat, but I didn't do, one of the things I didn't do is that little bit of light, and that is so important to those reflections. So once I get this water kind of nice where that's going to be, let's just take, for realism, this gives it a little bit more of a real look to it. And we can't forget, and I forgot on these, so we can't forget to go back now that I have that water kind of where I want it. Let's just drop those masts in there and just blur them out a little bit. Just blur. We just wiggle around a bit, blur them out, and let's get that a little more wiggly here, since we have that movement here. There we go. And see that little wiggle just adds so much to it. And we'll keep this kind of light. Here we go. I had to breathe. Don't forget to breathe. So, and you might even have a couple of, light lines and stuff like that reflect into that water as well. So let's just do a little bit here. Just an idea of some of those into that. The more you capture or you work on that reflection, the more real it starts to get. And I don't like to always go too real, but we'll go a little bit here. Let's get a slightly more brown here. Follow that one. Go right on down. Here, a little bit more brown. Very fun little painting, a little different for us, very fun, and adds quite a bit to our repertoire of stuff we're doing. So there we go, a little bit of blurriness there, and a little bit of light here. Just like that. You could put a few lines in there. I have a few more just little blurry stuff. Let's put just a touch of the light right in there. There we go. Just for that boat. And this needs to be just a little thinner. And it's really nice when that blue is wet like that. We can do that. So let's just get rid of that one. And maybe a couple of lines. Just any kind of lines down through here just to simulate, stuff, reflections in the water. And that just gives you a little closer, a little closer. There we go. Just like that. Now I did add this little structure here. I felt it kind of needed something there. You can, anything along here to just add some kind of movement or something like that. Maybe you want to just suggest a little beach or something. It's all for you. So you can decide. A little beach right there, a little bit of rocks or something right here. Little blues and just something right here. Just movements of the brush more than anything else. That's all I do is color and movement. I used to always think, you got to have something there, but no, it's just color and movement is really all you need. And yeah, and I do like right in here we get a little deeper color, and I do want to capture that, I think. And so I'm going to take both my blues, I think, and I just want that a little deeper right in here, because I love how that, the deepness of water when it comes forward. And so we'll just blur through that just a bit. Add a little bit of this movement in here. Leave some of that other stuff there. There, just add some of that in. Pull down to get some of that nice reflections across to soften them in. And I like that. Let's maybe a little extender and a little bit of this right over here, just to carry that color. But you can, a good thing to do too is to let all of this dry and then see what you want to do. Also, maybe I want to take that particular color, get rid of just a little bit of that violet up here. Not all of it, because I like it, but just a little bit of that violet here. Push this blue back up into there. Nice, just a nice little, almost what we call a glaze over the surface. And it just softens some of that look out. You can, put those clouds, a real soft idea of those clouds, which is kind of neat. And they're almost, a little pinkish here, because it's almost evening, or it is at evening, or morning, one of those. So let's just drop those in, maybe right here. Just real soft little cloud movement right there. Now, to soften that out, you've seen me do clouds all different kinds of ways. And usually what I'll do is I'll soften that out. I'll rinse my brush out with a little extender and just pop it right along the edge here. And if I'm going for dimension, a depth within it, I'll put in what we call linear perspective. So I start moving my brush, not huge, but side to side here. And as I work these, and that linear perspective adds that depth that we're looking for to that back there. So you'll see that. So linear perspective, moving the brush side to side. Let's put a little bit one right up in here. And so go back just a bit, just leave some of that. Try to get it out of the mast. But see, I used to worry about all that. Now I just kind of do it. And let's put a little bit more right up there. Okay. And I can soften into that. I can push up to blur it a bit. I like to make some like little edges, leave that. Let's kind of leave that. Maybe push this up a bit there. And if I want, I can add just a touch more light, like right up in here. Push that around. Linear, though. Linear. Leave those marks. Linear. Here. Just like that. And that looks pretty good. Now, that what you'll do is if you do that a lot, you just come down and emulate those into the water just a bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just emulate what you're seeing there, just a little bit. And it can be soft. It can be very soft. So we could come right about in here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just you're looking for the color and stuff more than anything else, that it's reflecting that sky right back down again. And that's it. That's what I do. And that looks kind of neat like that, I think. So I will probably put this away for a day or so, and then I'll find something else that I totally forgot about, and I'll fix that up. But yeah, I think that'll probably pretty much do it. I wanted this boat to be in here. I don't want to go too light right here, but maybe let's just, because this is supposed to be the shadow side. But I do like just to hit, I always believe in going back and hitting that center of interest, just one more time, and I want that to go in like that. So that just works there, just like that. Okay. All right. So hope you enjoyed that one, painting through like that. You know, you can add as much. I mean, the photo's got dozens of things going on. Some of you are going to want to have more. It would kind of look nice with a lot of boats filled up in here. It's really busy, but that's up to you. You know, if you're a newer artist, start out something more simplistic like this before you get that much detailed. And also, if you're a newer artist, you know, you can use that plastic like I showed you in so many other paintings, like taking off birds, all that kind of stuff. And you can dry all this and then transfer in that larger boat and see if you want to add that, you know, that larger boat in here. Do you want that one up in there? Do you want some of those other colors, some of those other things going on? That's all up to you. You know, you can decide that. I've got, and I noticed in my hole here, I've got this just a little bit too high. I will be changing that just a bit, but you know, that's easy little things to do. Just you take that, and I'll show you real quick because I like to do that. But I'll just change the angle right here just a touch up like this, and drop that back down, and it drop this stern back down towards the water a little bit more, and it'll get me a little closer to what that other boat is and stuff there. So anyway, fun little stuff. Okay, thanks very much for joining me, guys. We're gonna head back to some flowers and some. I've had a request for some more bird portraits. People want to see more bird portraits, stuff like that. I just posted one just the other day, but they want to see some more stuff. But I want to do some more landscape to it, and I have a very beautiful drawing, and it's an emulation of one of the Hudson, what's called the Hudson River Technique painters from the 19th century, painted Yosemite Falls. And I want to paint something like that again with you, because I think that would be really neat to get into some of those Hudson River techniques. And we're going to explore the Grand Manner technique of Richard Schmidt a little bit more, okay? Lots to do, a lot of fun. We're going to have a whole summer here full of painting, and join me. And I'll try to get as much as I can, but you know, like with this one, boy, having to stop for all those days and everything with the thunderstorms and stuff, it's really been quite amazing. Quite amazing. We've had a lot of them here. So I'll get them up as soon as I can. Okay? Thanks, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.